Joining us now live is White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain. Mr. Klain, it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thanks for making time.
Thanks for having me.
First, let me just start by apologizing for treating you like an interruption to Steve Kornacki as White House Chief of Staff. I know that this is a sort of a pay grade conflict here, and I apologize. But I also just want to
look. It's an honor to go on before after Steve Kornacki as he counts votes. Let me tell you, it's a rare honor either way.
We all feel the exact same way, but we don't work in the White House. I wanted to ask you just what it has been like today at the White House. How the president views these results. Obviously, we saw him speak on his own behalf today at today's press conference. But I wanted to ask how you are feeling, what the mood is in the White House, and whether or not this was as much a surprise to you as it was to so many of us in the media world and in the pundit sphere.
Well, look, we entered the election with confidence. We thought the president and the vice president had gone around the country and laid down a very strong message about what we had done the past 2 years, about what was at stake in the election. And we felt very confident in that. But of course, you never know till you know. And the results certainly have been very, very strong. We are within reach of holding the Senate and possibly even expanding our majority in the Senate. The House, the president, we already know the president achieved a result in the House that hadn't been matched in 40 years, a result in the governorships that hadn't been matched in almost 50 years. So when you have one of these kinds of historic triumphs, even though, again, we certainly lost some races we wanted to win, but overall, a very, very, very strong outcome for the president and his agenda.
It is as we've been describing, as we've all been talking about, it is an ahistorical outcome to have the president's party do so well in a first midterm election. The practical impact of that, and we'll see it in stark relief as we start to get the results of these last remaining results, but the practical impact is likely to be very, very closely divided power inside the U.S. Congress. Yeah. This president and you in the White House, you are not strangers to how to deal with that. That has been the circumstance for these first 2 years of your term. Do you feel like you have learned lessons, that you have tried things that didn't work that you wouldn't try again, or that there are things that you've learned might work with closely divided power in the Congress in terms of how you will treat the next 2 years for governing?
Well, look, I think the president laid that out today, Rachel. I think he made it very clear that he has tried to and has successfully on occasion worked with Republicans to reform our infrastructure, to get roads and bridges built, to pass the CHIPS bill, which is going to make America the world leader in advanced manufacturing, create so many jobs and spur our high-tech manufacturing industries, to do things for veterans, the PACT Act, which took care of veterans who've been a victim of burn pits. So we've proven we can make this work with Republicans in the House and the Senate. Obviously, we're going to have to find ways to do the same. But the president's also proven that he is willing to stand his ground. And he was very clear on that today. If we wind up with a Republican majority in the House, we're going to try to find areas of common ground to work with them on. But the president is not going to agree to cut Social Security, to cut Medicare. He obviously would veto any effort to ban abortion or anything like that. So we're going to try to work with them where we can. We will draw the lines where the lines need to be drawn.
Ron, it's Chris Hayes here, and I wanted to ask you a question specifically about the overperformance of Democratic incumbent members of the House in frontline districts. If you look at how Democrats overperformed the fundamentals, that was really where they were very strong, a bunch of them. And it struck me that they were not getting hammered over voting for key items of the president's agenda in the way that you'd saw frontline members getting hammered over the vote for the ACA in 2010. Yeah. How much did that go into the thinking around the legislative agenda? How central was that, you think, to last night's results?
Chris, I think you are spot on. And perhaps more importantly, as the president called winners last night, one by one, they said exactly that to him. They said, Mr. President, I was able to win because I ran on your infrastructure bill. Mr. President, I was able to win because I talked about what the rescue plan had delivered for my district. Mr. President, I was able to win because of what the CHIPS bill is going to deliver for my district. So we put together a historic agenda to recover from the pandemic, to recover our economy from the pandemic, to make the economy strong and growing, to create jobs. And the Democrats in the House and Senate voted for that agenda, and they ran on that agenda. This was not a midterm where endangered members of the House and Senate ran away from what the president had done. This was a midterm where they ran on what the president had done. We gave them a substantial record They used that record. I think that's why we won a lot of these close incumbent races in both the House and the Senate.
Ron, it's Alex Wagner. Congratulations on what is seemingly a victory for this president, even though the outcome is not yet. It's not finalized, but I know the feeling is good. I do wonder, the president said today that after he gets back from his Asia trip, he'll be inviting Republican and Democratic leaders to the White House to talk about the road ahead. Who specifically in the Republican Party does the president feel he can speak with and work with on an agenda?
Well, look, he has worked with Senator McConnell on issues. Obviously, we have wide differences. There's no question. Senator McConnell's worked very hard against us on some things. But Senator McConnell did help us pass the infrastructure bill. He did provide his vote for the CHIPS Act. He provided Republican votes for the veterans legislation. And we're going to try to find more partners in the House. We did have a number of House Republicans vote with us on some key legislation. So, we've been through this for 2 years. There's no one here who is naive about the challenges of divided government or closely divided government or 50-50 government in the Senate. We've been through it. But we have been able to deliver results. Those results are making the country and the economy stronger. We're going to try to keep that up in the next 2 years.
Ron, are there plans for the White House to try to help Raphael Warnock over the finish line in what we now know will be a December 6th runoff between him and Herschel Walker?
Rachel, we're going to do whatever Senator Warnock wants us to do in terms of, events or fundraising. We're going to deploy all kinds of resources down there. I feel very optimistic about that runoff. I think Senator Warnock has done an incredible job in his start in the Senate. I think he's got a great record to talk about. I think the comparison with Herschel Walker is just a stark comparison. And I think that, I believe, that Senator Warnock's done a great job as a senator and look forward to that runoff.
Ron Klain, White House Chief of Staff, we really appreciate you being with us tonight. We know you guys haven't slept either. Thanks very much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.